Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to be showing you how to develop a floating bar chart that looks just exactly like the one you see displayed before you on the screen. So let's get started. So first, this is what the data set looks like. And the data set displayed before you is actually collected from participants who were asked to rate these 7 items on the scale of 1 most important to 7 least important. So the first thing is you try to make sure that you have the frequency of every level, how it's being rated by participants. So for instance, the item agriculture, about 27 people rated it as most important, like 1. So, and how I was able to compute that is using the Excel formula. You highlight the entire column and you tell it to count the number the number of times that 1 appears, and automatically it returns to you 27. So you do the same thing. You see now that the columns values didn't change, but the level changed across this entire column. If you go to the second one, which is resilient communities, you also discover that it's the same thing that cut across. And at the end of the day, 119 participants actually participate in this survey. And it was a survey developed using Qualtrics. So the next thing you want to do is you want to know the percentages of every of these levels for each of the item. So for instance, 27 people rated agriculture as most important, and that became 23%. I also computed this using the Excel formula. So it's just a matter of you saying 27 divided by the total, and that returns to you the percentage. So if you look at this table, you realize that the last row here, I have the mean. So this is not computed like the common mean or the simple mean. This is actually computed multiplying each level by the frequency. So as you see it computed here, this is AI2. So that's 27 times 1, because it is 1 because 1 is the rating that 27 people gave to that particular item. And that I did for every of this particular item and divided by 119, and it returned this. So as you can see, this mean I can actually make it be in 1 decimal place instead of it being in 2 decimal place, instead of it being a round figure number. So the next thing again that you want to do is this. You try to transpose this particular table, and that I did here. It's just a matter of you highlighting this. If you put your cursor here and you highlight this entire column, of course, it's going to return this. And now the rows have become the columns and the columns have become the rows. And you see here, it's so obvious, 1 most important and 7 least important. So one thing again that you want to add to this particular data so that you are able to get a data VIX that is very meaningful is that you want to add like an offset. So this offset is actually added to the graph, to the table, to make sure that by the time you are able to see your graph, it looks meaningful. So for instance, as you see this offset, I computed it by saying 0.9 minus the sum of these last 3 levels. So this 0.9 is actually an arbitrary number. It doesn't have to be fixed, but you just have to make sure that in every of this particular column, none of it returns to you a negative value, as you can see here. And I decided to subtract 0.9 from the last 3. Some people can actually make it the last 4, but I just decided to make it the last 3 because I feel like from 5, 6, 7, those kind of ratings are already very, very low, least important. So now that you have done all of this, then you highlight the entire table. You go to Insert, Recommended Charts. So here you go to All Charts and you go to Stacked Column. So when you click this, you select this second one. And this is what you have. So one thing you want to be very careful of, is that you want to make sure that this mean is not part of the bar. And what you do in this situation is you go back to this, change chart type. So when you go to change chart type, you click on combo. So here, this is cluster column, but we want a stacked column. So you make sure you click start column for everything, except for the mean. The mean remains a line. So you see, you click OK. So now this is the axis. This is the primary axis. You also need the axis for this mean. So you click on the mean, you right click, format data series, secondary axis. Right now you have both axes. So one thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the data label appears. So you click on this positive sign and you say data labels. So you also want the same thing. You also want the entire graph to have its labels, data labels. So by that, you have everything called out. So one thing I said while I was developing this chart is this offset is just to make sure that your graph looks meaningful. So you want to remove it. And how do you remove it? You make it go transparent. You change the color from blue or whatever color it is for you to white. So when you click on it, you can just come to this paint bucket, click on white. You now see it's transparent already. So you just delete it. Then the values that are also associated to it here, you delete as well. So you also delete from the ligand, the mean. We don't need the mean to be here. So now, also, this is from 0 to 200. If you try to make this graph bigger, so it's more clearer and more visible, you want to remove these particular lines just to make sure that you have a very clean chart. One thing again you want to do is this. Sometimes this is 200% and you see that some of these bars are still low. So you can make sure that you correct for the bar so that everything is in the right order. So you click on this axis, right click, format axis. So now this is minimum 0.0, maximum 2.0. So instead of 2.0, you can just make it 1.8. You see now your bars has come up a little bit. So now that you have done that, remember I said that the least rating is towards 7, while the most important is 1. So in that situation, you don't want 6 to be the one pointing up. So you click on this axis as well. You right click, format axis. Then you go to values in reverse order. You see, immediately you do that, 6 comes down. At least now is more meaningful. You know that as the value increases, it means that the importance of that particular component is reducing. So you can easily see here that looking at the mean, so you can click on the mean to make it bolder. You go to home, bolder. You can even make it bigger a little bit so that it's more clearer and it's more distinct than the percentages. So if you look at this blue as well, you can make it white so that it's more visible for you to see. So one thing again that you want to make sure that you do is you want to make sure that you take, because you don't need this axis really. So what you do is you also click on it, make it go transparent by clicking on this white color. You can see it has become transparent. But one thing again is it's still occupying a space, right? So you can just change, because it's the font size is now, you can make it 1. You see, and here to Control Z, there's an error there. So here to you make it into 1. So now that you have this before you, you also want to take this ligand and make it come to the right side. So I do make sure that it comes to the right side because that way it's more meaningful. So top right. So now that it's at the top right, you can make it bolder. So now it's so clear that the most important is 1 and the least important is 7. And it's in the same way, it's the same arrangement as you see the bars itself. So you can make it bigger a little bit, you can make it longer a little bit. And one thing again you want to do is you can also make these bars get bigger a little bit. So you also click on it, you right click, you format data series. So this gap width, you can make it 50. you see now it has become a little bit bigger. So this is all it takes. Then you can just change your your title to become value proposition of community facility. So now you've come to the end of it. Isn't this is something that really looks presentable and meaningful? Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming to this channel. Please subscribe and look out for more videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.